All right. When someone calls in, you should have a formal process, which we call a script, and how you're engaging with that person. And engagement is the key term. Dan, it shouldn't sound like you're reading from a script. It should be in your own words. It should be the way that you would talk, the way that you would speak to a prospect. And yes, there should be triggers in that script that get them to engage with you at a higher level. Because if you're building this relationship right from the start, okay, and there's some bonding and rapport going on, you're making little jokes, you're trying to understand what their need is and see if there's a fit between your two organizations, then it should be a conversation. We always talk about that, right? When someone asks a question and then when someone answers that question, what's that called? A conversation.
I jokingly say setting you up for failure.
Thank you.
But how many companies unknowingly set themselves up for failure because they set up their businesses perfectly? They have all the right desks, they have all the right phone system, they have all the right LLC. They're all in place ready to take on the world. And they might even have a customer or two, but they have no process other than referrals to grow their business.
There you go. So you said it. You just said it in that whole, after we got through all of that other minutia, right? You said process. And that's really what it is, Dan. Why would you have a process to set up your business, everything that you do up until the point to where you put the open sign on, but then you don't have a process when it comes to how you're going to grow the business? I don't understand how that makes sense.
Well, because, and I was on a call earlier this morning with a group of people, and I asked one of the more successful people in the group, how do you get your business? And they said, through referrals. And
it's like the kiss of death to me.
Yeah, I try. And I say, well, for me, I always think when someone says I get all my business through referrals, they don't do much business. Like, that's their thing. But I said, aside from that, what else do you do? And it's like crickets.
It's a deer in the headlights. You get that look like, oh, you mean, should I be doing something else? I don't know.
Yeah, and so then I asked her, well, how do you get referrals? She didn't even have an answer for that. I mean, they don't even have a process for if you're going to grow your business through referrals, right, at least have a process for referrals.
Yeah.
Nothing.
Yeah, that's right.
Goonish. Goonish means nothing in Yiddish.
Oh, it does?
Oh, it's a good word.
Thank you so much.
Yeah,
I like that.
That's
Goonish.
a good one.
Yeah,
so one of the things that you do specially well is help people double their customer base and can do it in as little as 90 days. Now, it's a lot easier if they have like 2 customers because then you only have to get 2 more. But for most companies...
I was told there would be no math, Dan.
Most companies like consulting firms or even accounting firms or people that you get paid, right, but you're mostly a consultant. Most of them really can make a good living with 25 clients.
Fair.
Okay. And so if you're stuck at 10, you're kind of just muscling through it.
That's right.
And so you're 10 away from total success. You can help them do that.
Yes.
How?
Thank you.
There you go. That's what we in the business call a setup.
That was a huge one. It's like a big, I could see it this big coming at me, like a freight train. So how? Again, I'm going to leverage what you had said before.
Leverage.
Right? You like that word.
People love this word.
I like it too.
Okay.
I like it too. Okay. So we've got to set up a process on how do we actually develop new business. Now, what does new business look like? Yes, it looks like referrals from maybe some existing companies. Okay, now how are you doing that? What's your process to do that? Okay, now we also look at how are we going to get business organically, which is really important, Dan. I mean, organic businesses are those companies that may be in their buy cycle right now. That's what we call it, buy cycle. They may be looking for your product or service at this moment in time. They're going to buy it from you or they're going to buy it from one of your competitors, but they're going to buy. They're in their buy cycle, right? Uh-huh. So how do we get to those individuals and find them How many rocks do we have to have to turn over to find those individuals that are actually looking, or businesses that are looking for your product or service at this moment in time? And
Well, that's marketing, though. Let's say our listeners want to know, because a lot of listen, we don't. You can spend enough money and get enough leads coming in.
oh, sure.
And that comes in there. But the challenge is you get the leads come in. How do you close? If you had to tell our listener,
I love it. I love it.
I'm sure there's got to be at least one.
I know one. If you had to tell our one listener,
Yeah, that's right.
all right.
If you don't tell, listen, what one thing would make the greatest impact in converting those opportunities into customers? What would you tell them?
I would say if it's an inbound lead, okay, somebody that's actually picking up the phone, calling us saying, hey, we need your product or service at this moment in time, then you better have a script. You better have it scripted, right? It's called practice for a reason, okay? You have to practice the scripting. You have to build something, a script, and maybe it's only, and people think of script sometimes as this dirty word. Like am I going to sound like a telemarketer? Am I going to sound like that company that's calling me from Singapore trying to sell me something, right? They almost speak English, right? Yeah. And so we're going to sound like that now? Is that who we want? Is that part of our brand? Like, is that who we should really want to be? All these
so
things
worried about their brand.
All of these things, right? But here's the thing. It doesn't have to be that way. All right? When someone calls in, you should have a formal process, which we call a script, and how you're engaging with that person. And engagement is the key term. Dan, it shouldn't sound like you're reading from a script. It should be in your own words. It should be the way that you would talk, the way that you would speak to a prospect. And yes, there should be triggers in that script that get them to engage with you at a higher level. Because if you're building this relationship right from the start, okay, and there's some bonding and rapport going on, you're making little jokes, you're trying to understand what their need is and see if there's a fit between your two organizations, then it should be a conversation. We always talk about that, right? When someone asks a question and then when someone answers that question, what's that called? A conversation. Okay?
We just talked about that before.
Right? Yeah. And so that's what we're trying to do. We're not trying to sound like, the telemarketer. Hello, Mr. Smith. Thank you for calling. Why did you pick up the phone today? How did you hear about us? It should not.
The funny thing is you actually picked this up and pretended like you were reading.
You're right.
Yeah. You're some sort of actor?
I am, of course. Because that's a great point, Dan. Again, your brilliance is showing, okay?
There we go.
Now, because here's the thing. You're an actor. You're playing this role, okay? And I've said this before, maybe on a podcast. I'll say it today.
And there's nothing dirty about that either.
There's nothing dirty about it. Listen, I was heartbroken. I literally had tears. I was welling up with tears. I was heartbroken when I found out that Robert Downey Jr. was not Iron Man. I was literally crying to myself. I thought he had the cool cars, the cool house, built into the side of the beach, right there with and I thought he had all the money in the world. I thought he had the flying suit. And then somebody told me, guess what? He's actually playing a role. I was like, oh, you got to be kidding me. I thought he was Iron Man, and I was heartbroken. Okay.
Well, is that manipulative? You hear someone who's thinking about getting into sales, and they hear all the terrible things that go on, and now you're telling them, yeah, you're just lying to these bastards.
Nah, you're not lying. That's different. Now hold on, back it up, back up the train there. All right, it's not that you're lying, and it's not necessarily that you're being manipulative. What you are doing though is you are playing a role. Know your role.
Just like Robert Downey Jr.
That's right. And
he's not lying.
He's not lying. He's playing a role. That's
and he
it.
gets to fly in a cool suit.
Right. So when you build the script, make sure it's in the way that you would speak. Make sure it makes sense to you. Make sure you're getting out of that, and you're trying to build that conversation and that rapport.
Now, I want to add to that too. Sometimes with a script, and I'm a big fan of them, as you know, people are new. And it's perfectly fine. You have a script, but in sales, yes, you're playing a role, but also, unwavering honesty. If you're new, I learned this when I was a waiter. It was always my first week. Because they give you some leeway if it's your first week. I apologize. I'm learning the menu right now. It's my first week, but I'll totally take care of you. Just call me. And you always get better tips and all that stuff. Same thing. If you're new with sales and you're new with the script, I apologize. I don't want to miss anything with you, Mr. Prospect. So I'm going to be reading from this script here. If there's anything in the side here, I'll make sure I'm not going to miss any. Is that okay with you?
I love it.
Boom. And then you answer the question, and now I'm in the now they're helping me.
Now,
so you could actually build that into your script.
Now, now listen. This is what just happened. Our one or maybe two listeners now that we have on that are actually listening to us, they just cringed. They said, they said to themselves, right back here, that little voice, they said to themselves, I would never, ever be able to do that. I would never do that. Like that.
They would never be honest?
No, that they would never be able to say what you just said. Okay, now here's what I want to say to our two listeners. I want to be able to say this. All right. I want to say, listen, here is the thing. We have you don't have to do what we're telling you to do. You don't have to use these tools that we're sharing with you. The only reason that you would use them is because it works. Okay, that's the only reason why. So if you hear something on this podcast that you don't like and you think it's like nails on a chalkboard and you say I could never do that, then don't do it. Because if you don't want to see the results, don't do it. If you're not willing to try something different and try something that's maybe out of your comfort zone, because we talk about that a lot. We talk about people being in their comfort zone, doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result, which we've all heard. It's the definition of insanity. Okay? So the question is, do you want to try something different? Do you want to do something different? Do you want to sound and act vulnerable? Because if you sound and act vulnerable to a prospect, guess what happens? They open up. They open up. Because intrinsically, as human beings, we want to help people. So if you sound like you need help, I guarantee you worked as a waiter. I don't know this for a fact, but I'm going to say this. I guarantee you worked for a waiter for a year and a half, 2 years, whatever it was, and it was always your first week.
Yeah, well, that's what I told you. Yeah, it's always my first week.
It's always your first week.
Yeah.
Right? Because intrinsically, people want to help you. And you figured out to make more tips. Right? And guess what? If you make a little mistake, you forget the creamer for the coffee, you got to go back for it, they're going to give you a little pass.
It's actually a little bit more psychologically beneficial for you to be vulnerable like that. Because not only do you get all those things that you just mentioned, you also have your customer or your prospect feel good about themselves.
Yes.
Because they're helping you.
Right.
I used to have a friend who was a young lady. She was gorgeous, but too pretty. The type of pretty that nobody would ever walk up to her and talk to her. Except the people that she didn't want to. But the people that she wanted to, they would never walk up there. And it was because she was too standoffish. I told her to go to the bathroom and stick some toilet paper to the bottom of her shoe and walk out of the bathroom with the toilet paper still on her shoe. So guys can walk up to her and say, hey, you got some toilet paper on your shoe, and give them an opportunity to call, to get them to come up to you. People are looking for an opportunity to help.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
That is interesting. That's cool. I like that.
Pretty manipulative, huh?
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah, terrible.
I like it, though.
Anyway, she's been divorced several times.
Now fast forward.
Yeah,
I guess she took the toilet paper thing a little too seriously.
Big with the toilet.
All right. Makes sense.
What is your fetish with toilet paper?
What is going on with you? Right.
But that's exactly right. Yeah. So scripting is one thing that people need to know, and I think it's very important. But it's not just the script. You got to make it your own.
You got to own it, Dan. I mean, listen. There are so many times. I've heard about football coaches. They changed their whole offensive structure. They changed their whole defensive structure one year, right? The whole team has to learn something different, and it is painful. Okay, it's painful for the players. It's painful for the coaches. It's probably painful for the ownership. I mean, but they know that something significant needs to change if they are going to have the level of success that they want to have. And that could be driven by one player. It could be driven by a few players. It could be driven by the whole organization. All right. But that's what we're saying. You know, our clients, when they hire Sales Arbiter, they're looking for that change. They know that they've gotten to a place, then they've grown their business to a point to where they absolutely need these foundational processes to be able to get to that next rung on the ladder. You know, they've been playing AAA ball and they want to get into the majors, man. I mean, that's what we do.
Yeah. And that'll get you, and that'll keep your business continually growing, and you can do it just by developing those processes. That's a big thing. And so how do you convince an owner of a company who's been around for 20 years and has a couple of salespeople, and they're doing all right? Can you take a company like that and bring them to the next level, or are they too set in your ways and you need to start fresh?
No, that's what I mean. We do that. We've taken companies like that, but the one word that I really despise that you just said, it's almost like a swear word to me, is convince.
You don't want to convince?
No, I've never convinced an owner to do anything. I've always got them to realize. I've gotten them to really, to really look behind the curtain of their organization to say, here are the issues, the problems, the concerns, the questions, that we're having on how we're going to grow this organization. And I it's kind of like leading the horse to water. I mean, that's what we've done. You and I collectively have done this for Sales Arbiter.
I don't know any of that. All I know how to do is hunt.
Come on.
That's it.
I've been rambling here, and you've been asking me all the questions, so I've got to reverse it. Okay. So what do you think needs to be done? What do companies need to do to double their business or their customer base within 90 days? I mean, you give us the Deej answer here.
By the way, I use this word. We use this time frame of 90 days like it's some magical time that it's just going to happen. It takes you 3 months to make a sale and all that stuff, and you can get.
Would you rather I said 3 months?
It could be 3 minutes.
Okay.
The thing is, it switches.
Yes.
As soon as it switches in your head.
Okay.
As soon as you realize that, oh my gosh, we're in Atlanta, right?
We are.
You could step out here and there's $1 billion in assets and real estate, just in eyesight right here. There is so much money and so much opportunity all around. The only challenge is it's not in your pocket.
Okay.
But if you could switch that and say, it's all here. You don't need to go to Jamaica. You don't need to go to to New York City. You could just look around you. There's so many opportunities right here, right now.
I hear you, Dan, but I don't know how to get to it. All right, I can see it. I mean, I see it all around me. I can go to the top of this building, walk around, grab an apple and a little, Coca-Cola and maybe a snack, and I can see it in front of me, but I don't know how to get to it, man.
Yes. And how you get to it is the first understanding that it's there and then go after it. And that attitude shift is not a small thing. Just yesterday, you can make, believe it or not, you can make 100 dials today. What time is it? I'm not going to turn my phone around because you yelled at me.
Here's the problem, though. Here's the problem.
Yes.
I hear what you're saying.
Yeah.
But Dan, you know it as well as I do. There's people out there that can't make one, let alone 100.
Well, you see, you said there was a word that you don't like. What was that word that you don't like? Convince. You know what word I don't like? Can't. There's no such thing as can't. Let me tell you something. If I had, do you have a dog?
No, but I had one growing up.
Okay.
Susie Q. She's
Susie
so
Q.
cute. She
Let's
was
say Susie Q.
She was this big and she was that long.
Susie Q was alive.
Yeah, she looked like a little butterball.
And I stole her.
Right?
And I took Susie Q and I put her in a burlap sack.
Okay.
So I have Susie Q in a burlap sack.
That's where she went.
And I put her out and I went out on the boat and I had this little crane. And at the end of this crane, I tied Susie Q hanging over the water.
You are cruel.
I know, it's awful. And then I called you up and you told me the day before you can't make a phone call. Mm-hmm. And I say, Crispin, Cruz, you make this one phone call or I'm dropping Susie Q in the ocean.
In the ocean?
Yeah. Do you make the call?
Can I say goodbye first? Can I say goodbye to her?
You make
Yes,
the call.
I'm going to make the call.
So
if
it's-
the pain is great enough to make a change.
It's not that you can't.
Okay,
It's that you don't want to.
fair.
That's why I said the attitude shift is there.
Right.
You need to just want to. And then, if you can't do that, if in your mind you want Susie Q to die, it's very easy. Hire somebody. You putz, that's all. If you're not willing to put up the time and effort in your own thing, then hire somebody to do it.
Gotcha.
And if you don't have the money to hire somebody to do it, get a lawnmower and mow somebody's lawn and earn the money to do that.
Right.
But you gotta get somebody to do that for you because your business will die if it doesn't. Something happens. Things are going to happen.
Right.
Competition's going to get bigger. There's going to be a virus that comes around and there's going to be a million things that are going to happen. But you all can be fixed if you're just constantly growing. You're constantly marketing. You're constantly asking for the order. Every day, all the time, systematically. And it doesn't get to be a problem. It's peace.
Right.
It's peace knowing you wake up in the morning. I know what I have to do. I have to make 100 dials today. Okay, good. Let me start early so then it's done. It's peace. If you talk to 100 people, you're going to get some customers. It's peace. There's no questions anymore.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to lose some customers. Who cares? You're going to get more. It just happens.
Right. So what I'm hearing you say is you got to put the excuse making in the trunk. You got to get rid of it. Because that's what it is to me. When I hear someone say, "Well, I don't have time," or "I don't," or "I'm not comfortable doing that," or "I don't have the," because we're going to provide with Sales Arbiter, we're going to provide all the tools. Yeah. We're going to provide every single tool for the companies that we work with and for. We're going to provide them with the tools to be able to do it. The one thing that we can't give them is the work ethic and the mental capacity.
The desire
to make it happen.
Yeah, you're just going to want to, excuse making goes both ways.
Right.
You can have an excuse not to do something or the excuse to do something. My dad used to, people say, "Oh, you need a reason." My dad used to say, "Listen, the difference between an excuse and a reason is the way it's spelled. Other than that, it's the same. It's the same thing. Don't tell me. People think if you're by the way, if you're late for something, let's say you're late and you call somebody and you're late,
right?
And someone says, "Hey, you're late." Anything you tell them after that, tell me why you were late. Give me a good reason why you're late.
I was late because I was running late for another appointment.
Oh, okay, good. Okay, so all right, good. And so that's an excuse.
It's an excuse.
Yeah, so anything you would tell me would be an excuse. But say, "No, here's a good reason. The good reason is there was traffic. A good reason."
Right.
And so, I used to have another father-in-law, like a stepfather-in-law. He died. He was a good guy, Earl. And he used to be a big shot over at...
You didn't put him in a sack and put him over the ocean.
He was a big guy over at Orkin Pest Control, or Rollins. Or
yeah, I want to make sure.
And he would fire people on the spot if they came with a reason.
Really?
Or an excuse. On the spot, like in a sales meeting. "Why are you late?" "Oh, there was terrible traffic." "Okay, great. Pick up your stuff. Today's your last day." Done. The only thing you were allowed to say was, "I'm sorry. I didn't leave early enough. It won't happen again."
There we go.
That's what you're allowed to say, because the operative word there is "I."
Mm-hmm.
If you take responsibility for it, like you did earlier,
right.
Yeah, we take responsibility. Then you got something to work with. Anything else is an excuse. Nobody likes excuses.
That's absolutely right.
And even you don't like excuses about yourself. So when you tell yourself, "I can't make the call, I can't pick this up," it's an excuse. You're actually hurting yourself mentally.
That's it.
By telling yourself you can't do that stuff.
That's a great place to stop, Dan. Thank you so much for that information.
Hey, that's what I'm here for you.
I'm telling you what, it was great, and I appreciate it. Thank you.